cielo una harina de queso blanco y al sur una montaña.
Okay, good morning everybody. Thanks for the presentation, and I want also thank a lot to Dr. Luis Machado for the invitation that he made me. Okay, so the title is New Reproductive and Bioestimulation Techniques on Rabbits. But I have some bad news. We don't really have a lot of information about new reproductive bioestimulations. The ones that we have and we are using today are techniques that we began to use from the 1930s. And before we can use any technique, we have to think about three principal needs for rabbits. Rabbits are well known for having high reproductive efficiency or fertility. However, when they are placed into a cage, things change a lot because they depend on many things that we have to provide them. So those things have to do with feeding, as we have seen in the previous presentation. So we have to have a doe in a very good body condition before we can think about reproduction of it. Then we also have to think about environment. We have to think about the temperature, humidity, and we have to provide comfort as well. And the third thing has to do with genetics. So if we choose a doe that comes from a large litter size, and also things such as weight at birth, then we have some more things that will make us to improve on reproduction. Okay, we're going to talk about some techniques that were long used before, such as light stimuli, stress effect, male stimuli, female stimuli, and the new tendencies that we have on reproduction. Okay, so on bioestimulation or reproduction, we have to think about the definition. So bioestimulation implies to introduce a change or a modification to the environment, which is now referred to as environmental enrichment. So the aim of it is to improve the reproductive parameters. So we begin with light stimuli. Here we have this hormone melatonin, and it has a lot of effects. It has been used as an antioxidant. It has also some properties such as improving endothelial cells growth. It has another use to reduce the platelet reactivity, and it has to do with enzymatic stimulation, among other things. And it has been used to regulate many more physiological effects in the body. But when we talk about melatonin, we have to think that it is produced due to light stimuli. So when we have the daylight in the brain, the light will inhibit the secretion of melatonin. And when we have dark hours, that means at night, the stimulation of these dark hours will produce the brain to secrete melatonin, and it is directly stimulating the pineal gland. And in the brain, it has a lot of stuff to do with cell signaling in order to produce many physiological changes in the body. And when we talk about does, and this graph here is a data taken from humans, but it works the same in the does. So during the day nights, melatonin is reduced, but it increases a lot at night hours. So in many species, especially when those species are restricted in their reproductive cycle, in some species, production of melatonin increases reception, but in those it reduces reception. So in some of our countries, when we have long day hours, reproduction will be stimulated, and vice versa. So we have to take care of those late hours. Sorry. Okay, so there are many works on the effect of melatonin and their treatment on rabbit reproductive performance. Some of them had to do with a study of many daylight hours and the effect that they had on reproduction. And some works have hypothesized that the reproductive performance could be improved either by increasing the photoperiod or administering supplements with melatonin. So we now know that photoperiods of 16 day or light hours improve the quality of ejaculate, and we're talking about the male or the buck sexual activity, but also in the female, it could improve the feeding intake, litter size, weight at birth, and time of weaning. So we now know that when we have productions where we can control the environment, the most recommended is to have 16-hour daylight. And we have to be careful of it when we see the seasonal effect. So that means that during winter, when we have shorter daylight, we have to just increase the light hours, and that can be easily done by putting a light inside the farm. Okay, now the stress effect. Okay, for some species, when they get stressed, a lot of hormones get into unbalance. So here we can use a little bit of stress on the dose to improve the reproductive performance. But we have to be careful when to do this. So one thing is about cage changes. So we have our dose for reproduction, and we can change them from one cage to another. And it is recommended to do this 48 hours before mating or artificial insemination. This will increase receptivity, but it only works if we select multiparous dose. If we use nulliparous dose, it will have no effect. Okay, there is another change that we can do, and that has to do with dose gathering. That means that we can put all the does that will be made together in the same cage, and it is recommended to do this 15 minutes before mating or artificial insemination. And we have to be careful that it only works, again, when we are using multiparous dose. Okay, the other thing that causes stress on the females has to do with controlled nursing or lactation. And it has been established that after day 10, the kids will be so strong to support 48 hours without milking. What it will do on the doe is to reduce the amount of prolactin that is being secreted by the doe. And prolactin has a function to block in the brain the release of GnRH. That is the gonadotropin release hormone. So if we reduce the amount of prolactin, that means that we are taking away the lack of GnRH. And therefore, after 48 hours, the doe will have experienced a lot of stress, and that means that she will be having her mammary glands full, and so we are allowing the doe to milk the litter. That will reduce a lot the inconveniences that she's feeling, and therefore allowing lactation will release a lot of endorphins that again will increase the release of FSH on the doe. That means that her ovaries will be activating. Right after the lactation, the doe will be taken with the male or do their artificial insemination. Therefore, she will be highly receptive, and her levels of FSH and LHH will be released, and that only works again with a second lactation dose. Sorry for these inconveniences. Okay, again we have another effect that has to do with the male effect. We're almost there. This is called the male stimuli, and it works in many different ways. We have the male-female effect. So that means that when we have our farm, we can arrange the males and females so that one male stays between the females. So one male will stimulate all the females around his cage. That will introduce a synchronization of the female cycles. Therefore, we can use this technique to have a band management or line management. We can also use this effect or this stress to use a male-to-male effect. That means that when a male is placed next to another one, for competition, they will increase the release of T4 or testosterone levels. And that's due because they will compete for territory and also for female coitus. That will also increase libido, and also it has been seen that it will increase sperm production. Okay,